Alrighty, hello everybody. This is gm-rikoo. It is the 14th of April, 2014. I didn't know my month there for a second because it's about 30 degrees outside. Anyway, and this is your very first Illyriad Strategy Monday. It's a tentative title. We might go with something else if you have an idea of a title. You might, if you come up with something quirky, send it to me in in-game mail, gm-rikoo. But I think Strategy Monday will work. I'm sticking with Monday for now because Monday's a good day to do something like this because people are just getting to work and they like to listen at work or after work and stuff like that. So good thing for that. Today we're going to be on this very first inaugural episode. We're going to be talking about. I thought it would be fun to talk about just start at the very basic. That way we're going to have. We're going to start kind of from the bottom. Somebody's getting an echo. Let me go ahead and hit that mute real quick for a second. Okay. Ooh. Somebody's getting a whole bunch of echo. Sorry about that. So I thought I'd start off with somebody mute your mic there, my guess, if you can, so I don't have to mute you. There we go. All right, hang on a second. Anyway, so we're going to start off this first episode on the very basics by covering some newbie tips. Newbie tips are always really handy, and as we get on these streams going once per month, we'll get into deeper and deeper strategies, maybe some more stuff, some strategies on how to destroy your enemies completely. Before we get on, though, I'm going to ask to introduce my panel here so I can figure out who's getting the enormous amount of background noise right now. So first let's go to Real. Real, why don't you introduce yourself?
I just told everyone in my household to pipe down, so hopefully that will help.
I'm getting an echo real bad, but it's all right. Go for it.
I'm Real. I have been playing Illy for about 2.5 years now, and that's about all I have to say about myself.
That's fine. You don't have to give a novel. You can later if you'd like. And next person we're going to talk to is Tess. Tess.
Hi, this is Tess.
How are you doing?
Good. Been playing Illy for just over 2 years. And some people may know me by my alt account, Simply Divine.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the Tesseract.
Well, I am Tesseract.
Tesseract from Avengers.
No, that's what it's from, though. It's from A Wrinkle in Time.
Oh, is it really? I had no idea.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
A Madeline L'Engle novel?
I haven't read A Wrinkle in Time in years. I need to go pick that back up again. That was a fantastic novel when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, and then next we have Arneson. Arneson, do you want to introduce yourself? Oh, no. We've lost Arneson. That's what all that noise was. He was being attacked by dragons.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. There we go.
Wait, they're releasing dragons?
No. In
Awesome.
Here first.
I'm 2 years into the game. No, I'm not. I'm not lost.
Give him ice cream.
All right.
I get ice cream now.
Well, as long as you don't get killed by dragons again, because that must have been what all that noise was. But by the way,
Actually, I turned my mic off to see if it was me, and they were still getting echoes from the two girls.
I think you're fine because in the end, I think I had all of three of you muted, so the stream audience probably did not hear an ounce of it. By the way, chat room, if you're in global chat and you want to ask questions, go ahead and ask in global chat. As you can see, I am live right now in the game. You can ask all you want, but it's probably better if you sign up at twitch.com. It's a lot easier to ask questions on there. But go for it if you want to ask in global chat. I just might miss it because I am looking at 3 different locations for questions. Also, if you want to tweet us questions about newbies or about anything else, go for it. It's at, as you can know, let me get over to my Twitter, at Illyriad. You know how to spell Illyriad. If you don't, get out of the game right now. But feel free to tweet questions as well. All right, so we're going to cover newbie questions right now. It's going to be a very basic stream, but I think that it'll be pretty interesting because we were talking before the show, and actually, I think it was you, Tess, that was saying that there's actually there could be some debate just on how to answer some of these questions as well. Mm-hmm. So let's start with Tess first, and then we'll go to each of you. But Tess, what is the first thing a new player should probably do in game?
First thing they need to do is finish the tutorial and then introduce themselves in global and get to know people a little bit. I think one of the mistakes that some people make is that they see other people asking for resources, and I've found that generally doesn't work as well as asking intelligent questions.
Yeah, I could see that. It's kind of funny because you'll see people ask for resources and they haven't even either made it out of the tutorial or, you know what I mean? And they're so early in the process. The only thing I can think of, by the way, my new profile picture is amazing. It's the mouth of Illy. But it's. I think what's happening there is I think that they might have played other MMORTSs where resources are an issue, and they think that they automatically should just ask the same question, and it just happens to apply. But a lot of times they haven't even left a tutorial or anything. So, Real, would you agree with that? With her assessment of what they should do first?
Well, actually, I think that they should. This is heretical, but ignore the tutorial and build your storehouse twice, and then do the tutorial.
Really?
Once you have 2 levels of storehouse. Because King Sigurd is going to send you resources that your storehouse will not be able to hold. And I'm all about frugality. Now, that does mean that you're going to have to spend like 12 minutes before you really start the tutorial. So if you're really impatient, that might not be the way to go.
Right.
But personally, if you want to be the most efficient you can possibly be with your resources, don't build the library first. Build the storehouse 2 levels first, and then go on with the rest of the tutorial.
I'd never even thought about that. Now, that would be something, though, that, as Tess said, they would probably, if they had asked a decent question in chat, they might find that out, because that's kind of, unless they watched a video like this or saw the tip. So that's a, you could see how a lot of people probably wouldn't know to do that.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's not necessary.
Right.
But if you're listening to this and haven't started the game, secret tip. Upgrade your storehouse twice first, and then do the rest of the tutorial.
Well, now I feel like a dork because I've never done that. So.
And still be totally inundated.
Yes, and still get a lot of resources.
And then when you're done with the tutorial, upgrade your storehouse some more.
Right, and for those who aren't, I'm indicating the storehouse there. Mine's at, I think, 16 right now. I'm playing. I had to start a new town, of course, whenever I stepped into the role of GM. So it's growing slowly. I don't get as much of a chance to just sit there and grow as fast as I want. But it's not really a big deal because nobody can attack me. As you see, I got a permanent rainbow. So, but yeah, that's a good tip. I didn't even think about that. All right, so Arneson, what do you think was first thing a new player should do?
Well, I was with Tess because she took my answer, but the Real's idea is intriguing. It's something outside the box that would never have occurred to me, but I think it makes perfect sense.
Yep. I had no idea either. Thanks a lot, Real. Now you make me seem like a complete and total noob.
Sorry, I've made a scientific study of this. Helping noobs is like my thing.
Yeah. That's why I asked you on the show. So, and also I want to thank all 3 of you, by the way, because I did put an open call and received some half-hearted attempts at, I might be able to help out, but I don't. Can I actually not talk at all and just write notes and secret? You have to get on a microphone. And so I appreciate all 3 of you coming on the stream. All right, so far we've got communicate in chat, build up your store. It never occurred to me on the storehouse thing. That's kind of I don't know. It'll be this. We'll link this out to the newbies, so maybe that'll become kind of a more common thing. So then it sounds like the first thing then is probably to communicate, because then they could figure that out.
Yes, talking in global chat is a good way to get a start on the game.
Okay. Very good.
It almost goes without saying, or it should anyway, but people should be polite in GC about asking for resources.
Yeah, I mean, technically we even have a rule against begging for a while. Years ago, we actually had a pretty common issue where newbies would show up because, again, I think this was an issue in other games where they could do this, or they did this a lot. They would actually show up and beg, literally just put out like a spam call for resources, and because of those other games didn't necessarily care about that stuff, people would just kind of throw resources at them. So we had such an issue of it for a while. I believe we actually made a rule about it. It's on the forums if everybody needs me to link that. So you can come in the chat and say, hey, can I have some resources, but don't spam. Give me gold.
Well,
give me it's not going to work.
I mean, the danger is that we'll make an example of you by Clay incidenting you. Mm-hmm. You don't want that to happen.
Yeah. I don't see it much though. I don't know about you 3, but I don't see it much.
I don't find it bothersome for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most people are really cool and polite and come in and they, and then everybody throws a bunch of stuff at them. All right, so the second question here, we'll start off with Real. How important is a new city's location, or should a newbie just work with what they have? Now, before we go into that question, I kind of just fired it off without really even thinking about what I wrote necessarily, but people, when they first come into the game, they're so worried about certain types of squares and all that. So when you first make when you first make your city, I see my city as a character, like an extension of myself, it's going to put you somewhere randomly on the map. So you're kind of stuck with that. But so I guess the better way to ask this question is, how important is that location that they're at?
In terms of the initial location you land on,
Yeah.
almost completely unimportant. There are some slight advantages to, for example, landing in the exact center of the map.
Okay.
Do not start accounts and then abandon them if you don't happen to land in the center. But resources actually tend to be slightly more plentiful in the very center than they are in, say, Norwell.
Right.
But it's not going to make any substantial difference in your gameplay experience.
Okay.
Where your starting resource allocation, which is determined by a race, is going to make a much bigger difference in your gameplay very early on than where you happen to land on the map.
Okay. Tess, how about that? What do you have to add to that?
I completely agree with that. I think a lot of people get kind of panicky because they see that they're being crowded or feel that they're being crowded. I think what I've told people, particularly new players that have joined Playground, is not to really be that concerned about it until they're ready to build their second city.
Right, which takes a while before that's going to happen.
Yeah, but at first it's really not, I think Real goes a long way towards trying to calm people's fears on that. I've seen them do it a bunch of times. I don't think it's really that important.
Well, I mean, I think what happens typically too, especially when people start to realize that this game is what they call an open PvP, full loot kind of game. You can be destroyed. People can attack people willy-nilly unless you're under this protective rainbow. Really, the only thing that keeps people from just completely destroying everybody in their path is the players who have kind of built their own kind of rule system. What's not good to do, what's good to do, and they back it up by attacking each other if they have to. So, but I think what happens is once new players realize that the game is like a full loot PvP type of game, it's kind of what they would call hardcore. They start to really worry about where they're at and should I build my second city, and they start to get in that kind of panicky mode.
Well, I would slightly disagree with you in terms of the only reason that people don't destroy each other is because of the rules. I think the rules are actually more of a product of the fact that, frankly, it's really hard and annoying to destroy people.
Yeah.
And there's no profit in it. So, to a large degree, there's very little incentive to destroy people unless they really piss you off.
Right. I see what you mean. I mean, and you're right. I mean, it's not a cheap endeavor just to go off and stomp through people. For those who don't know, and other MMORPGs, is that a lot of our, for example, a lot of people are coming from Lord of Ultima, which I'm pretty familiar. I played that game for a while. I've actually written about it a few times. It, from what I remember, was not a kind of raising type of situation. You couldn't destroy each other's cities. How it happened in most MMORPGs that I've experienced, or any games that are similar to Illy, is that you would attack somebody, you would maybe knock them down, you maybe get a little loot from them, but you would never really do much damage to their city. They could really survive. So farming was a big thing in these other games where you would just farm the heck out of each other, and it wasn't really that deadly. So I agree.
Yeah, farming is uneconomic in Illy.
Yeah.
So if you're worried about farming, don't worry about that. It doesn't pay, for the most part, to try and farm someone else. You don't get very much in resources, and you already have enough already.
Right. So, Arneson, I'm going to go on to you for this next one. When should a newbie begin to worry about growing a military? This is a very important question, Arneson, so don't mess it up. No pressure.
Right. Probably not till they've been in the game for quite a while. Now, that's going to be a function of, first of all, have they joined an alliance? And what type of alliance have they joined? Most alliances or most good alliances, will counsel players on when they should start building a military, what kind of military should they build, based on race, based on location, based on how they want to fit within the alliance as a whole, and what their personal goals are in terms of their playing style.
Mm-hmm. Somebody is listening to the stream, I think, with you guys. If you want to mute your stream there, because it's getting some echo there, if one of you is watching it. But anyway, yeah, I've played the game, for those who don't know, since, oh my gosh, 2011? Something like that, right when it was first really kind of coming out of beta. I can't remember, but it's been about 3 years. And I've never really worried much about a military. And what's cool about Illy is that you can worry a lot about it, and you can get really involved with it, and you'll definitely have to worry about it then. or your alliance gets embroiled in something and then you're really having to worry about it. But typically, if you want to kind of be a peaceful player, it seems to me, you guys would have to agree or disagree with me on it. It seems like you can kind of stay peaceful.
Yeah, I have yet to be attacked by anybody.
Oh, that's over now. Let's look at his town.
Oh, you just jinxed yourself.
And I have yet to attack anybody.
Okay, that's up to you to jinx or to mess up.
But I invite anybody to try. I have tens of thousands of troops.
He's bored. He's been building troops.
Well, are you doing a lot of attacking, like spawns out in the world, stuff like that, or what do you do with your troops? Do they sit there and just kind of entertain you, or what?
Well, mostly what I'm trying to do is get them all outfitted.
Say it again. I'm sorry.
Get them all outfitted.
Oh, okay.
I've got almost all of them now mounted. I've got most of them armed, and about halfway to getting them all armored.
I'm taking notes. Arneson is the expert in equipment.
No kidding.
And so you're crafting and getting all this equipment and outfitting your army, basically.
That's right.
Okay.
At the moment, one of my cities can handle an attack of something in excess of over 1 million points, and that's without bringing in reinforcements.
Wow. Somebody in the global chat was saying, this might be from earlier, so we might have missed the context of but they spelled it out in nice big giant capital letters, production. Don't forget your production. What are they talking about? Basically, keeping up with your production, your resources, all that kind of
I think they're telling people to upgrade resources,
Okay.
which
That's
is
right.
important.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
So here's a good point of debate then. How to upgrade resources? Evenly at a time, or one group of resources, or how do you guys do it?
I would suggest, based on, again, some study and experimentation, upgrading one of each resource higher than others. And there's a technical reason for that, but I don't want to bore people.
Go for it. Go for it real quick. If you can,
Okay.
if it's not like 4 hours of entertainment, go for it.
Is there a
The
text
reason
on it?
is, I can give you the 4-hour thing, believe me, and people who know me will tell you that I can. But the reason is that resource plots create population which consumes food. And if you consume food, then you have to create more farms. But if you upgrade one resource plot, then it creates less population for every increment of resource increase than if you upgrade all of the plots evenly. So it's a more effective use of your food to upgrade one resource higher, because one level 11 resource, for example, will consume 10 food per hour, which is about the same amount as 5 level 3 resources, which will consume the same amount of food per hour, but produce only 20% as much.
Okay.
So it actually makes sense to upgrade one of each higher, but the bottom line is, as long as you're upgrading resources, that's really the only thing that matters.
Okay, so what you're saying, and just so people know, when you mean one specific resource within that type of resource, like
Right, one wood, one iron, one clay, one stone.
Yeah, like I just kind of, now that I'm, this account that doesn't matter as much how I grew up, but I'm trying to experiment a little bit. Whenever I used to play, like just quote unquote normally, I would do one at a time. Then I would get to like level 10 or level 12 or whatever, and then I'd want them all to catch up. It was like an OCD. I don't want to say that it wasn't, but it was like I wanted to keep it all organized that way. So
Actually, it's not a coincidence that you say level 10. Level 10 is about the point where it requires so much resource to upgrade that it doesn't make sense to level it any higher without leveling some of the other ones. So you've actually, people know this intuitively, but somewhere between level 9 and level 10 is that break-even point where you should probably start upgrading others.
Okay, very good. So level 10 is probably a good. That's good. That's very good. All right. Who else has something to say about that? Any kind of? Do you agree? Do you want to add anything to that?
No, she's right on. Level 10 is the balance point, if you will.
That's
other
also
thing
true
they've got
for
to
library
consider-
and storehouse.
The other thing you have to consider, of course, is that in most cases you're dealing with one resource which you only have 3 of. Hopefully 7 food, and 5 of each of the others, unless you're in one of the the poorer areas where there are less than 25 resource plots.
Aw, I've got to do something about our poor areas. We're gonna have to get the king on that. That kind of makes me feel sad saying poor. I have 3 wood, and
Disadvantage.
gonna have to put it politically correct. But yes, the king is concerned. We'll have to do something about that. So yeah, I mean, but back to the military question, because I don't think really Real or you or Tess talked about it. Real, how do you feel about the military growing it? Is it a necessity that you just need to keep up with, or can people survive without it?
You never have to have an army, but armies are fun. And by army, it also, there are lots of different things you can do with an army in Illy. And for example, if you're going to defend yourself against someone who's actually attacking you, you're going to need a lot of troops. 10,000, 20,000, 50,000.
I'm going to make
just,
10.
You know, as a part of an alliance. But to have fun as a new player with troops, 50 or 100 is going to allow you to start attacking some local animals, gathering up their hides. And actually a small army now, since animals drop hides and parts, can pay for itself. You need to have a little bit of an upfront investment and maybe a little gold cushion saved up either from a gift or from selling cows or something like that. But once you have that little cushion, your army can hunt and with cotters and perhaps skinners collect enough so that your army can pay for itself if that's something you're into. I mean, if you think that's really boring and you'd rather not do it, then
I mean a lot of.
But if you don't have to wait until you're big enough to support an army in order to have a small army and do some hunting, because your army can, if you use it correctly, pay for itself.
Right, but you should always scout your target first, correct? Or unless you know the numbers are, as a new player, though, you might want to scout every time.
Yes, when in doubt, scout is what I say.
Oh, that's a T-shirt right there.
Oh, there you go.
When in doubt, scout. We'll give you 10% of the money we make from that. All right, Tess, do you have anything to say about the army? Are you? Tess,
I agree with the scouting, particularly because it does let the newer players see how that the two can work together, the diplomacy and the military, and allows them to build the scouts and see what's going on, build spies. All the small numbers, though. I think the problem that I've seen that people get into is they'll come into global and say, "Oh my God, I'm minus 400 in gold," and that's where people I think have a tendency to get a little out of balance. And keeping it small does allow. I agree with Real on that completely. It allows them to have something to do other than watching those little hammers bang away on those little plots. It's going to be a little bit boring.
Right, I hear you. Yeah, I mean, you want to keep that in the positive, but I know that when you get into, and you guys can agree with me on this, once you get into some, you have quite a bit of money sitting there and quite a bit of food sitting there, and you're in a negative. It's not as scary, but when you're a newbie, you definitely got to worry about that.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Because what happens if let's say your food goes into the negative with your massive army?
Yeah, well, what I would recommend is starting with scouts, actually 10 basic scouts, because that will allow you to have some experience with having cost for a unit, and that way, you can watch whether it goes negative or not. And then also, you can do diplomatic quests and start looking around your neighborhood and see who just killed your cotters and decide whether you want to send them a nasty or not.
Yeah.
All
right.
But I would say for the very beginning player, scouts are actually a little bit more useful than an army, so I would start there and then work up to an army.
Very cool. All right, so Arneson, we're going to start with you on this one. How important? Now, I have a feeling I know you three will probably lean on this issue here, but how important is an alliance to a new player? What should a new player look for in an alliance? For those who don't know, an alliance is what other games might call a guild. It's a collection of players that get together and throw parties and kill each other. So how important is alliance, Arneson?
Well, micro me to the contrary. I think alliance is very important. I think it contributes a great deal to the enjoyment of the game, because then of course you have alliance chat along with global chat to kid around and ask questions and so forth. And that's good for people who are perhaps a little embarrassed to ask questions in global chat. It means access to resources, because Alliance members tend to support their members, particularly their newer ones.
Mm-hmm.
And it means access, perhaps even more importantly, to advice on how to best progress their little empire. And of course, for females, it's important they join Sir Igley.
No comment.
All right, Real, what do you think about alliances? I have a feeling you feel pretty strongly about alliances.
I do.
Okay.
A good, perhaps not in the way that you might think I do. A good alliance can make your game and be the highlight of your daily life. A bad alliance can be a big mistake. You don't need to be an alliance. And there are some people out there who have never spoken in global chat and never joined an alliance and have no interaction with anyone else in the world except possibly occasionally bumping their harvesters, and they seem to be having lots of fun. So I'm not going to say that everyone has to join an alliance. There are people who are into Illy more for... They play Illy almost as a single-player game, and that seems to be working for them. And so I'm not going to speak against that. I would say what's most important about an alliance is that it's the right alliance for you, and that you have the same goals and expectations of the game and your alliance as your alliance has. It's less about the actual alliance as it is about the fit between you and the alliance. There are some alliances that will be perfect for one person and just awful for another person, and another alliance the opposite. So it's a matter of finding the right one.
What do you think? I mean, I guess it would depend on the player. Some players might look for a more militaristic alliance. Maybe somebody might look for a more social one. Where should people probably go? Do you think they should ask in chat and just kind of start to get to know the people, or what's your advice on that?
I'd say ask in chat, get to know people, but also interview the alliance leader. Ask them questions. Be clear about what you want to do in the game. Without being demanding, but say, if you want to do trade and you never want to have an army, tell the alliance leader that up front. And if they're a very militaristic alliance, they'll say, you might try somewhere else, or they might even give you a specific recommendation. People in Illy, especially in global chat, are very unlikely to say negative things about other alliances, no matter what they actually think, which, it just politically, it makes sense. They might say it in mail, but I would look more closely at, rather than whether people are saying positive or negative things, what they're saying in terms of this alliance tends to be a little bit more militaristic, or this alliance is really good at trading, or this alliance is really warm and welcoming, or, that kind of thing.
Right. Arneson, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would say in a mail to, when you have to request an alliance invitation. So in a mail to an alliance leader, say, this is who I am. This is kind of how I see doing things. What do you think about that? And also, are you going to do these 3 things that are important to me in an alliance?
Yeah, you want to be sure to ask questions and take your time with it, because that's going to be the group of people you're going to spend a lot of time with. I know a lot of people who don't even pay attention to the general chat. They'll pay attention just to their alliance chat. So if these are people that you're going to be gaming with for many hours, during the week, you really want to make sure that you have the right fit. Arneson, you have anything to add to that, the alliance? How is your alliance?
The only thing I'd add is that I think, notwithstanding Real's point, which is valid, there are a great many people who play for the fellowship more than they do for the actual game itself. And the alliance chat adds that second dimension to that fellowship that isn't possible in global chat.
Right. It gives a depth to the game, and it also gives it really makes you feel the power of playing with other people, especially in a game where you really sometimes have to, and depending on certain parts. Tess, do you agree with that? Anything you want to add to the alliance? How's your alliance? Is it the best alliance in the world, or do you hate them?
Both of them are, yeah. Actually, I'm in an alliance with Arnis, and my alt account, Simply Divine, is the leader of an alliance called the Playground. And I think it's the biggest mistake that a lot of people make is, again, they get a little anxious at the beginning, and they think they have to jump into the first alliance that sends them an invitation. And I would caution people against that. That take your time. If there's a connection right away, and you feel like you'll be comfortable with the people, then by all means go ahead and join.
Right.
It's not written in stone. You can leave. If you get there and you find out that you're not happy, or it's not what you thought it was, well, then start shopping around.
Yeah.
Read the profiles. That's
Look
really
at the profiles of the people in the look at the alliance profiles. Look at the player profiles. They're going to tell you a lot about what's going on in an alliance. I know that my alliance chat and Playground, sometimes we can go for 8 or 10 hours without a word being said, and sometimes, every single one of us is in there talking at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So it is the one place that people can feel, like Arneson had said, they can feel a little bit more comfortable. I think Will brought that up too, is that there's two different worlds. There's the global chat world, which is what I compare to like an open bar at a at a downtown bar,
mm-hmm.
and alliance chat's like the kitchen table, so it's a lot more relaxed, a lot more one-on-one kind of help for people who are maybe bashful to ask questions and appear to be stupid, but then which they're not. But I've had the terrible experience of seeing a new person being told that they were asking a stupid question in global.
Yeah. There are no stupid questions, and we all have to ask them at some point. Everybody.
We don't all just pop out knowing Illy. We have to learn it somewhere. Yeah. And I know Real has taught me a lot over the 2+ years that I've been playing. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people that I talk to, even today, I learned something almost every day in Illy, and I think that's the fun of it.
Well, cool. We're going to wrap this up with one last question here. We're going to keep our streams to around 30 to 45 minutes. So the last question, this is a good one. And by the way, if you have additional newbie questions, these players here, I'm sure would be happy if you want to contact them in the game. If not, you can also in-game mail me gm-rikoo. You just go up to the search thing right there. I'll show you around. And then you type in gm-rikoo, and there I am popping in. You can actually click on me and just send me a message if you want. Yes, that's the mouth from Sauron, by the way. And send me, and we'll try to get you in touch. The general chat, like they're saying, if you listen to this advice, the general chat's going to be really, global chat, I should say, should be really good for that. What's the biggest, Real, we'll start with you. What's the biggest mistake a newbie can make?
Being afraid to make mistakes.
Really? I'm surprised at all your answers. I thought you were going to say something differently.
Illy is a very forgiving game, and it's really hard to break it. So I would say that trying to do things right, there are people who like to know what they're supposed to be doing and do it that way, and that works for them, and that's good. But if you're a person who kind of likes to experiment and break stuff and see what happens. And when I was a new player, I sent my caravans 5 days away from my city, so to harvest something. And therefore, it couldn't general, and it seemed like a disaster at the time.
Yeah.
But I laugh about it now because it's 2.5 years later, and trust me, I survived.
Yeah.
So I would say the biggest mistake you can make as a new player is to make a mistake and give up.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because there's quite a bit of depth to the game, and if you get, and also I think a lot of them get kind of down about the length of time it takes for some things to happen, especially research. But that it speeds up over time. Tess, what would you have to add to that?
I think Real pretty much answered the way I would. There are no big mistakes. in Illy, other than maybe some social mistakes. If you want to, go into global and start calling people names and
that was the answer I was looking for. Exactly.
That could be a problem. Sometimes people come in there and they think they have to throw their weight around from the very beginning to prove how bad they are.
Yeah.
That's one that is kind of hard to overlook, and a lot of times that's where you see people abandoning an account because they realize they've made a huge mistake.
Yeah, especially when they like threaten some guy with a giant, alliance or something. I don't want to make it sound like that happens a lot. It really doesn't happen a lot. But I think though that because probably a lot of people by the time they find Illy, maybe they found it through maybe a game that was advertised more large or something like the EA's whatchamacallit, Lord of Ultima or something like that. By the time they find Illy, some of their behaviors might have been set in stone, but they might also know that smack talking doesn't always work. But so it doesn't happen a lot. So.
I would say that I don't recommend smack talking at all. I don't think it works. But by the same token, I don't think that new players should feel too pressured to conform and be nice. And if you're the player who comes in and smack talks and says, her, I'm going to kill all of you, you can expect a lot of disapprobation from global chat.
Right.
You can also expect to receive no less than 3 emails that say, I really like your attitude. I hope you'll join my alliance later. Or there's a secret movement to overthrow the nice people.
Yeah.
And I'd like you to join it.
Yeah. I agree. I think you play however you want, but in as far as from the point of view of somebody who has to enforce the rules as part of my job, you can smack talk and be quote unquote rude all you want. You just have to keep it within the rules. That's all I ever ask. There's like a list of specific things I could give you that will say, don't do this, and you can do everything else, and it's pretty easy. So, but yeah, we don't get a lot of it. I think because it's pretty obvious pretty quickly when you talk in global chat kind of what the social rules are. It's not as though there's no fighting. I mean, you can look at the Herald stats immediately and see the battles that are constantly going on. I love that stuff. It's like epic battle. I love that. And know that there's a lot of fighting and war, and behind the scenes there's a lot of that going on. But you can kind of get a sniff of the social rules pretty quickly. It's kind of like a dog park as soon as you walk into global chat. All right, Arneson, what do you think about that? What's one of the biggest mistakes you see newbies make?
I've made just about every mistake there is, and I keep making them. And I would say offhand, the biggest mistake, something like the girls have said, is to be afraid of making a mistake.
Yeah, I agree.
Because there's nothing you can do that you can't fix.
Right. I mean, I guess the worst people think is that if they started to build a building, it takes a while, or if they're starting to do a research. Like, I could see it with the research a little bit because it can take a while for research to go through or to complete. So I can see people's, like, once they started to being like, oh, crap, now I got to wait 3 days or whatever it is. But it's going to be a while, I think, before you're really opening up those researches that take all that amount of time. Do you know what I mean?
So I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. I mean, I still to this day, just because I'm airheaded and I have a million things going on, in any one day with the game, I still will put a research down there and be like, oh, why did I put that one when I have, all these smaller ones to do? But at a lower level, I guess you'd call it a level, at a lower kind of experience level, you're not going to run into those huge mistakes until later. And even then, I think the biggest mistake you're going to make later is attacking somebody that you shouldn't attack. And then you find an army at your door.
By the way, the ideal time to start playing Illy is approximately 8 a.m.
You think? Why is that?
Because of the timing of the resource distributions from the king. Because you'll get one immediately and one in about 13 hours. Well, so that allows you to accumulate. You should start at 8 a.m. and then leave and go to work or do whatever it is you do all day.
Wow.
And then come back and keep building. It'll be less frustrating, trust me.
Okay, so that's another good tip. 8 a.m., is it like Central, Eastern?
Anytime. At whatever time you're in, start at 8 a.m.
Very good. I will have to talk to the king about switching that up now, just so we can keep the players on their toes. Will have to relearn it. I'm just kidding. The king doesn't really like me that much. I'm kind of like the fool. I dance a lot. Like Joffrey's fool from last night's episode, which I'll say nothing about. But anyway. All right, so everybody, we're going to keep these to around the 45 minutes. Actually, we still have a few minutes left, so we can continue to talk a little bit about newbies. But before everybody goes, I want to encourage every player that watches this now or later, in-game mail me tweet us at Illyriad. You can also send us an email at community@illyriad.co.uk with suggestions about other topics. I think the next one we're going to go even more into strategies. I don't know if we're going to go into building strategies or military. I'll probably put a poll up on the forums and start to look into that. I'll ask you, since I have a panel. Real, we'll start with you. What do you think one of the least kind of understood areas of the game is that maybe we should look into?
Diplomacy. Although I think you'll probably find very few people not diplomacy like politics, diplomacy like how do I use saboteurs. Although you'll probably find very few people actually willing to comment on that subject. Because
of the strategy nature of it?
Yeah, what do you do with saboteurs when you use assassins? How do you avoid saboteurs? How do you avoid assassins? Again, those are things that are usually learned through experience and often, I would say, held close to the vest. I've seen people post in the forum with questions on those, and they don't tend to get the usual helpful responses. But it would be interesting to see if you could get some people who would comment on that.
Yeah. I've heard that too. Putting out my call, I got a lot of messages in game as well. People saying, I'd love to be on there, but I'm afraid my alliance would get mad because I'm, divulging secrets or whatever. Let's turn off sovereignty real quick so the map be prettier. I completely understand. So when we have these discussions further down the line, we're not asking necessarily people to give any type of strats or secrets or tips like that, but general stuff. And we'll see how deep we can go before it gets kind of scary for people, Arneson, what do you think when you're playing in the game and you get some newbie asking you questions? What's one of the more common questions you get?
I think probably the most common question is, can you help me find a place to build a city or move a city?
Yeah.
Real estate.
Yeah, exactly.
Real estate.
That's more far and away.
You could have 2 or 3 sessions on that one.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Easily.
Tess, what do you think? You're known in the game there. What do people come to you and ask you for besides like free gold and stuff?
Well, one of the things that is a challenge and was a real challenge for me was when they first introduced the trade hubs. Was the process of getting a trader into a hub. And what researchers are involved and what buildings need to be built. And it took me an entire Sunday afternoon in Alliance chat with one of our vet players when it first came out to get me to finally wrap my mind around how that worked.
Right.
Because it is a little complicated. And I think, people are often told in global, hey, go out, get your little army out there, gather up some hides with your cotters, and sell them at the hub. Mm-hmm. Well, it's not quite that easy.
Right. I do want to encourage people also, if you go to YouTube, which it's going to be linked in my tutorial as well. If you go to my tutorial, it's going to have it down here. This is going to be the official Illyriad help tutorials that we actually filmed over the years. We're going to probably update these eventually just to get quality better. These live streams will also serve as that, but I completely encourage people to go over there because these videos will literally explain them. Also, while you're running around in game, you're going to see these little T's pop up here. If you click on that, it's going to pop up a helpful video that you can also use as well. And what's funny is when you look at the stats for those videos, which I have done, the newbie ones are very popular, and then they kind of edge off as the newbie becomes more skilled in the game. It's pretty funny. But I know that Real, you always have help. There's that helpful links in the forums, right? That we can link later in the show.
If you want to know something, well, here's a tip for a new player. If you want to know something, ask in global chat. Someone will tell you.
Yeah.
Probably 8 someone's in more depth than you ever really wanted. But
we all 8 say something different.
Yeah. But I think,
Oh, and I was asked to mention by someone that the vault really is a good thing.
See, now that's a big... We'll get into that.
The what?
Okay, let's talk about that for just a minute because that is a newbie thing. The vault, so for people who don't know or who are watching this later, maybe they find this on YouTube and thinking about playing the game, the vault is a protective... You can build it and it's going to protect your resources from basically when you get attacked and people... So, what's the general consensus, do you think? Don't build it, don't concentrate on it until you're at a certain, power level or whatever, but what do you think?
I think a vault is very useful early on and almost useless late in the game unless you're under siege. And if honestly, if you need a vault late in the game, you're probably at your last gasp anyway.
Yeah.
But early in the game, it can be a lifesaver. It can give you enough resources to allow you to keep building even if someone is harassing you. I have an alt account. I start alt accounts just to test stuff.
Sure.
So I know how long it takes for King Sigurd's vans to get to you. At only one at a time, to be clear. I never have more than 2 accounts at a time.
Right, that's all good.
So this little account got feed a week or 2 ago, and they took everything except for the entire contents of my level 3 vault. So they basically got like 1,000 of each resource, and I just kept building away.
See, that it's
very helpful.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Very small.
See, like it says here, your storehouse and warehouse when working together alone. I'm sorry, either together or alone are not enough to protect your hard-earned resources from thieving. So basically, somebody comes and robs your town of all its goods, which they can do in this game, which is what makes it exciting. That vault will protect a certain amount, depending on what level it's at. Now, that's a good argument for a low. It's kind of weird. I guess a lot of people will be going alone in the game. And maybe they'll be more likely to be attacked. And a lot of people, if they're willing to join up with a more powerful or known alliance, might be less likely to get attacked or thieved like that, because a player who would attack a newbie like that might be a little more experienced. So there's different ways to think about it. We're going to go ahead and close up. We won't get into the whole vault thing now, but if you guys and girls out there have any opinions about IGM, and what I think I might do is if I take some advice from some of the other players, maybe read them on the air the next time we do this and use some of that. So what do you think about the vault? I always like the vault. It just makes me feel good. Arneson, just real quick, what do you think about the vault? Do you build it early on, or you not worry about it?
No, I can't see any use for it. You can't keep enough there to be worthwhile. To speak of once you're more than 2 or 3 weeks into the game, unless you're going to invest a lot of resources in building the vault up to level 12, level 14, level 15. Got better things to do with resources than that. Okay.
And Tess, what do you think? Vault or no vault?
No vault. I've never built a single vault.
Really?
Nope.
Really?
So Rob, Tess, and Arneson, she's got it covered. That's what it sounds like. All right. Thanks, guys, for joining me.
I've knocked all my vaults down, just for the record.
Okay.
Although I do have defending thieves.
Right, exactly. There are defenses against theft. We'll get into
everything in the hubs. Everything.
For more advanced players. But by the way, you should. The problem is that it takes 2 days plus 2 hours to research anything that allows you to store stuff in the hubs. So if you're on your first week, you don't want to do a 2-day long research.
No, of course not.
Which they should fix that, by the way. Yeah. It should be a shorter research.
Okay, I will bring it up with the king himself if he's not actually watching right now.
That's the Merchant's Guild research is the one that's 2 days, and it's too darn long. It should be more like 2 hours.
Really? Okay. I haven't heard that.
It doesn't allow the newer players to get involved with the trade hubs at all.
Exactly.
So
it's a big barrier.
Okay, well, I tell you what. Why don't we stop the stream, and then you guys can sit here for 2 hours and tell me all your concerns. Does that sound all right? I just don't want to go over too long. All right, but everybody, thanks for joining me. This is our very first inaugural episode. We'll fancy it up next time. I'm going to put some fancy little things on the screen and all that stuff like that. So we'll get going on. We might even start doing some camera stuff, which is a lot of fun to do. You can hold up toys and Illy merchandise and all sorts of good stuff. So we'll look into that. If you have any questions or if you'd like to be on the show, of course, in-game message me. Tweet us at Illyriad. You can email me at community@illyirad.co.uk, but that's mostly for really questions and stuff like that, like gameplay stuff. So in-game messaging is actually the quickest and easiest way to get a hold of me. It might take me a while to get back to you because I literally have quite a few messages coming from all across the different social medias and stuff, so it might take me a little bit to get back to you, but definitely feel free to in-game message me with anything.
I know I'm going to sound like a suck-up, but he does actually answer his mail.
I try. The thing is the in-game message, honestly, I can't speak for Lunar or the other devs at all, but for me, the in-game messaging is the easiest to answer. It's immediate. I can see everything about you. I can, it's just so much quicker. So don't be afraid to ask me any question. It can even be questions that I'm going to say, I am not going to answer that, but feel free to ask it. But anyway, so we're going to go for now. We'll be back. We're probably going to do this once a month for now. Panel, if you stick on the call after I end the broadcast, just stay on the call there so I can talk to you after. So it'll be every third, I think the third Monday of each month. I'll have to look at which one it is, but watch the forums for that. This will go up on recording on YouTube and on our twitch.tv/Luna-Illyriad. And I'll see everybody next time. Thanks for joining me, panel.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'll see everybody in game. Don't attack my. Oh, you can't attack my city. You might want to rob Arnis and the test though.
Hey! No, you don't.
You probably don't actually. All right.
No, you really don't.
All right. See you in a bit.
Okay.